Good evening to every Ambazonian across the globe. Good evening to our ground forces, the soldiers of the revolution defending our homeland and putting their lives on the line to make sure that we shall be free. I did promise you yesterday that I was going to make a short address today. You can see it has been a very long weekend for me, extremely very long weekend. And as we said yesterday, you must believe in the strategy and the processes that works, that makes Ambazonia a pride of other peoples who are fighting against colonial domination. Yesterday in Dublin, we concluded that Ambazonia is an endangered nation. And in the coming days, we are going to invoke different international instruments to make sure we call the attention of the relevant international institutions for the protection of our people. It is quite critical that we should understand that the policies of Cameroon and its supporters, both within the continent of Africa and externally, is to exterminate the Ambazonian people. That is reflected in its brutality on our people, a systematic policy of violence, the burning down of villages, the burning down of houses, and the gradual depopulation of our country to make sure that Ambazonia as a nation does not exist. We must take cognizance of these facts and make sure that as we fight for our independence, we do not close our eyes to the realities that are familiar to us. Because if we are not careful, if we are not taking steps that are necessary to protect the Ambazonian nation, we may have an independent country with no population. That is why we looked carefully at Cameroon's policies in the past 60 years. The policy of the economic policies, social and political policies, and how Cameroon responds to political demands. And we looked at Cameroon occupational policies in terms of how it implements its policies of occupation. And we concluded rightly that Cameroon has a genocidal plan designed purposely not only to physically eliminate the Ambazonian people, but to culturally alter it, the Ambazonian demographic space. And so these short-term policies and these immediate policies that we are making is to make sure we can protect the Ambazonian nation. And our experts will be working very hard in the coming days to make sure we seize different international institutions to draw their attention to these immutable facts. My fellow countrymen and women, we also are going through this so you have some clarity on why certain policies are formulated. We also concluded that after studying different cases like the Eritrean War of Independence, we concluded that the Eritrean policy to have a friendly government in Ethiopia that was willing to recognize the independence of Eritrea, that was going to work purposely for the protection of the Eritrean population, was important. And the Eritreans worked extremely very hard to make sure they installed in Ethiopia that kind of a political system that safeguarded Eritrean interests in the short, medium, and long term. That worked well for Eritrea to ensure Eritrea gained its independence, but most importantly, that to a certain extent, the population of Eritrea was protected. I think, and the Governing Council of Ambazonia believes strongly that the necessity of a friendly institution or government in Cameroon that recognizes Ambazonian right to external self-determination works purposely to protect the Ambazonian people is important. We also made the determination that the war in Ambazonia is carefully being planned in Cameroon. The logistics that are enabling the war are all coming from Cameroon. And for the purposes of protective self-defense, it is for the best interests of Ambazonia to take action within the territory of Cameroon that safeguard our population, protect our territorial space, and enable Cameroonians of goodwill who recognize our independence to replace the 89-year-old oligarchy that has existed within Cameroon. And under my leadership, make no mistake, I will take purposive action to make sure that the Ambazonian population is protected. You must be reminded that at the initial phases of our revolution, we had already started this policy. We believed from the onset that Cameroon was exploiting our resources like oil and stacking them in Douala, where it was using to deploy its forces within Ambazonia. And our initial actions in the first phases of our defense strategy was to engage Cameroon within its own territory. So it is not a new policy. It's not a new action, but it is now a policy position, because then it was a strategic option. It is now a policy option of the Governing Council of Ambazonia to engage in protective self-defense externally to protect the Ambazonian population and to foster our right for external self-determination. It is important that Ambazonians understand that we will not defeat Cameroon by flip-flopping, by changing our position constantly to accommodate those who do not believe in our independence. Independence is not a walk in a park. It is not an experiment. It is a carefully thought out process by leadership, developing policy positions for the short, medium, and long term that will seek to achieve the objective of political, economic, and social independence. At the onset of our revolution, we designed policies within the homeland to protect our population. We made sure that we developed a defense policy that empowered the Ambazonian people to defend themselves against the brutality of Cameroon. We made sure we empowered Ambazonians psychologically, educationally, and politically to understand why they struggle. We didn't simply provide them with weapons to defend themselves. We provided them with the intellectual know-how of their history and an understanding of the system that has occupied our homeland for the past 57 years. Once they understood the nature of the beast they were dealing with, once they concluded that it was for the best interest of Ambazonia to be independent, they could use whatever tool that was available to defend themselves and defend the homeland. We gave Ambazonians the intellectual capability and tools to understand their plight, to understand where we are, and to understand their destination. That is why Ambazonians have been resilient. That is why the revolution has stood the test of time. That is why the revolution has been able to withstand the utmost brutality of Cameroon. And I can assure every Ambazonian, even those yet unborn, that our country is independent. And the task of making sure that Cameroon leaves our homeland is going forward. In the past weeks, we have been putting policies in place to build a contender force. The contender force that is going to project power, project authority, make sure there is discipline within the defense forces. Building a contender force through alliances of self-defense groups that adhere to a code of conduct that respect international law is important to showcase that Ambazonia is able, willing, and capable of defending itself and protecting its independence. That is why in the past few months, we have been working with due diligence. We have been consulting amongst different stakeholders of our revolution to make sure we can ensure the emergence of a contender force that is disciplined, well-armed, and capable not only to defend the homeland, but to protect our population from external forces and forces that have been engineered by Atanganji and other political forces within our homeland. It is only the emergence of a contender force that is going to show the international system that we as a people are ready to take over our country, protect it, govern it, and develop it for the interests of the Ambazonian people. This policy is a strategic policy if we are going to gain international recognition and respect from international institutions and other countries willing to stake their own prestige for the recognition of our country. You must be rest assured that we have put in place a strong team that is already looking at economic policies, that is already looking at post-independence political system, the kind of economic designs that our country is going to have. This team is working alongside strategic thinkers who are designing a self-defense policy that is going to take care of soldiers of our revolution, families of soldiers that have died, those that have been wounded. We are also working on a design of a professional defense force where soldiers can receive some minimum monthly support from the governing institutions of Ambazonia. I want to assure every Ambazonian fighting to defend the homeland that we think about you on a daily basis. And we are working extremely very hard to make sure all those who fight under the flag sing the anthem, defend Ambazonia and put Ambazonia first, will have a bright future. Even those who die today, we will make sure that your sacrifices was not in vain and that your family will receive compensation for your sacrifices. But all of these strives domestically will not give us independence. That is why I'm in London, to make sure I put in place an international team of capable individuals who understand the international system, who understand the logic of recognition. Henceforth, the game will change on Cameroon. Cameroon's impunity on the ground, on Ambazonia, Cameroon's heavy-handedness on our people, Cameroon's deliberate policy of crimes against humanity on Ambazonia. Going forward, Cameroon will be held accountable. We have worked extremely very hard in the past year to put this team in place. Cameroon should know the game is on at the international scene. We are aware of all the groups that Cameroon has put in place in Washington. We have detailed information about these groups. I can assure the Ambazonian people that at the level of the international system, your recognition and the holding of Cameroon accountable is assured. In the next few weeks and months going forward, we will be unveiling a high-power team that will take care of this aspect of our recognition. We have done our own part as a people, but we have our limitations as far as the international system is concerned. That is why we have put in place this team. They will be able to force Cameroon to answer for the crimes it has committed against our people. They have assured us our case is sound and Cameroon will not only account for its excesses, but it is going to pay for compensation that will ensure post-independence development. We are now more powerful than we were in the past few months. And going forward, we will be more powerful to face Cameroon at equal strength at the international system. And as we build our contender force to face Cameroon with a more powerful force at the level of domestic self-defense. The culmination of our international effort and our domestic effort is what will not only ensure speedy independence and recognition, but ensure speedy post-independence political, economic, and social development that will give hope to an embattered people, that will plaster joy on the faces of mothers who have suffered humiliation, that will rejuvenate our economy and give to the next generation a better system than we ever had. I want to assure every mother, I want to assure our beleaguered population, I want to assure our despondent population, our stance will not change. Our stance will become even more radical as we see the humiliation of our people, the burning down of villages, the torture and murder of our citizens. We will not blink. We will not open ourselves to humiliation, sabotage, and blackmail by anyone, group of people, or institutions who think flirting with Cameroon will be for the best interest of our people. Anyone who think Ambazonia will ever remain a colony of Cameroon is making a huge mistake, because this never again generation has not said its last word yet. For 57 years, we tried desperately to be Cameroonians. We tried desperately to speak, to open ourselves for negotiations, for dialogue with different political regimes within Cameroon. We were humiliated. We were kidnapped and tortured. Our women were raped. Leaders captured in foreign countries, deported to the capital of Cameroon, detained incommunicado, humiliated in detention cells in Cameroon. Activists had their legs getting rotten while under detention. People were locked up for months and years without trial. This is not a system that means good for us. This is not a system we can talk with at the same time that they are burning down our villages. Anyone who enables the occupation of Ambazonia must understand that the majority of the Ambazonian people have spoken through demonstrations on the 22nd of September 2017 and on the 1st of October 2017. Their overwhelming belief for an independent system that protects the integrity and dignity of the Ambazonian people. That is why we have been able, in the past month, to put in place this team. This will be one of the strongest teams in the history of the Ambazonian state to have been put together to work for us. In the coming days, the Vice President will be leading an international team from the Governing Council to speak to other international partners. On the 10th and 11th of April, the Foreign Secretary and the Vice President will be talking with other international teams at the European capital. We will not rest until Cameroon is exposed. We will not rest until the last Cameroon soldier is kicked out of Ambazonia and Cameroon held accountable for its impunity and disproportionate application of force within the homeland of our territory. Be rest assured that under my leadership, there will be no blinking, not with even individual Ambazonians who seek by omission or commission to project the Cameroonian state over the aspirations of our people. They will understand going forward that 30 years of resistance against Cameroon, 30 years of defiance against a colonial system that has murdered our people, that has detained our comrades and impoverished our population, will not stand this generation of Ambazonians who are determined to write the last chapter of our history. My fellow citizens, the game is on with Cameroon at the level of the international system. And you can sleep, you can hope with pride for your achievement. It is your achievement. It is because of your resilience. It is because of those who said no from day one to coexistence with Cameroon. It is because of you who have refused to be an enabler. It is because of you who have spoken with clarity of your intentions, of what you want. It is because of you that the international system is listening. It is because of your effort and sacrifices that the world is speaking. I can assure you, it will be because of you alone, that Ambazonia shall yet be free. Don't blink. Stand firm. Don't compromise. Setting for nothing less. Ambazonia is your last hope, your last resting place, for which hundreds of thousands have given their lives. God bless you all, and good evening.